Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Bob Pizzini Show, coming to you live from the West Palm Beach area of Florida, not too far from Mar-a-Lago, one of the homes of our current president, Donald Trump. But these are the studios, the Podfinity Nation studios. It's where I'm doing my new show, the Bob Pizzini Show, and it's been incredible so far working with the crew of Podfinity Nation and some of the other associated organizations and people they have down here. Today's guest, Seamus Flatley. Seamus and I met a few times over the years, both post-Navy career, and we both worked in the contracting world for a while. But Seamus has got an incredible story. He goes by Flats, Seamus Flatley. He is a retired Navy fighter pilot and U.S. Naval Academy graduate who flew the daunted F-14 Tomcat. You're going to have to explain why. Go ahead, let's answer that right now. Why daunted?
It was a beast of an airplane to fly. Didn't look pretty behind the boat, but awesome power, awesome capability. Obviously, it had quite a legacy during its service with the Navy.
Yeah, for sure. A legacy. A reputation. It's famous or infamous, however you want to look at it. And I can't wait for you to tell us about a mission or two.
Sure.
He was a squadron commander. Seamus was a squadron commander providing air-to-ground support for special operations combat units during Operation Iraqi Freedom. Upon retiring, he joined Blackwater, first as the leader of rescue and recovery operations during Hurricane Katrina, and then managing various U.S. government support contracts. His aviation expertise was tapped again when he was put in charge of research development and testing of counterinsurgency light attack candidates for U.S. government applications. Seamus has been an executive influencer in several cutting-edge companies and is currently the Chief Revenue Officer for MARTAC. What is M-A-R-T-A-C? What's MARTAC?
Maritime. Yeah, Maritime Tactical Systems, small USV manufacturer down in Melbourne, Florida.
Okay, cool. A maritime autonomous vehicle development company. Melbourne, Florida is a pretty cool place. Do you get down there at all?
Yeah, I do. Matter of fact, just got back last night. I live out in Bend, Oregon, so I spent last week and a couple days this week in the office meeting with folks.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful part of Florida. So I spent a little time there back in the day, back in my U.S. Navy deep sea diver days. So a lot of fun. So Seamus, welcome to the Bob Pizzini Show. Thank you for carving out the time to be on the show today, coming to us all the way from Oregon. And my format, I love to just kind of set the scene, get the background of the people I'm talking to. And did you grow up in Oregon, or why'd you move out there?
No, came out to Oregon about 2.5 years ago. I've got 3 sons. 2 were on the West Coast working for AWS. COVID hit. They pulled chocks out of Seattle, came down to the Bend area, big outdoor guys, hiking, biking, running, all that kind of stuff. And then my oldest son had just left the teams, gotten his business degree at MIT, and thought an opportunity for all 3 of them to get together. And so we're out here 5 minutes within 3 households and 7 grandchildren.
Wow, that's cool. So you're definitely living the dream in this next phase of your life.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
awesome.
been great.
Where did you grow up?
Grew up in a Navy family, so East, West Coast, South, and North. But most of that time spent on the East Coast in the Virginia Beach area.
Okay. If you claimed a hometown, would Virginia Beach be that hometown?
It would be, yeah. I grew up there, and then my career in the Navy, most of that time was in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, that's cool. Tomcats out of yeah, I'm sure you did a lot of time at Oceana.
Oh yeah.
Oceana Master Jet Base. What's a Master Jet Base? Why do they call Oceana a Master Jet Base?
I think because for the Navy, you only had, on the East Coast in my time, you had Cecil Field and you had Oceana. All the F-18s were down south. All the Tomcats and A-6s were up north. So you had F-14s and A-6s. Then you have the aggressor squadron VF-143 or 43, the fighting Omars. So a lot of different aircraft. So I can only imagine it became the master jet base for that reason.
Okay, all right. And speaking of that base, there's two golf courses, the Tomcat and the Hornet. I'm sure
Yeah,
you've played them both. Has it been a while?
it's been quite a while. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Our mutual friend Marty Strong and I golf there from time to time, and um, he's I suck at golf, and so does Marty, so it works out pretty good. so, so, so growing up, calling Virginia Beach kind of your hometown, or where you grew up for a portion of your childhood, did you play sports, being on the move all the time?
I did. Yeah. I mean, and it really started my sports career all the way through college started in the fifth grade in Montgomery, Alabama, when my dad was a student at the Armed Forces Staff College down there. And then transitioned to Virginia Beach, played for the Virginia Beach Mariners. And people may not remember, but Bay Colony had a huge wide open field at long time ago. There's lots of houses all over it, but that's where we practiced. I lived on 51st Street, throwing my pads, riding my bike down to Bay Colony, and that's where we had practice a couple days a week. And yeah, went from the Virginia Beach Mariners to Virginia Beach Junior High School, and then went off to boarding school after that. But basketball, baseball, football, wrestling.
Wow, did it all. That's
Yeah.
cool. Do you think that helped kind of shape you and prepare you for the Naval Academy?
Oh, it did. Yeah. Being, always wanting to win, being part of a team, uh, figuring out how to work together to be successful. It helped form some of my ideas about, competition, teamwork, and that carried right through the Naval Academy.
Yeah, for sure. That's a common theme. I'm a retired EOD guy, as you know, and our friend Marty, we talk about this all the time. There's most guys in special operations, and I would include aviators, especially fighter pilots. We grow up. A lot of us grow up with team sports. We grow up with adversity. We grow up with things that really prepare us for that military career, and it's not deliberate. It's just the way we were brought up.
Yeah.
So that works out pretty cool. Any jobs in high school?
Yeah, I used to work for Checkered Flag.
No kidding.
I grew up with the owner's son, Steve Snyder. So my summers were spent back in the wash bay cleaning cars for the showroom and for customers who just purchased something. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool, man. It's high schoolers. It's always good to have a little change in your pocket. So
it was. Yeah.
what led to the Naval Academy? I mean, you grew up in a military family.
Yeah. Easy question to answer. I am the third generation Academy graduate on both sides of my family. So I had two grandfathers, class of 29, class of 33. My father was 56, had uncles in 64 and 65. I ran it out the third generation in 83, sister in 90, two brother-in-laws out of 91, and nieces and nephews out of 18, 20, and 22.
Holy cow, that's incredible. Have you been back there in a while?
Was back there for my 40th reunion a couple years ago. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty
it's
cool.
changed a lot.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I hang out with a group of special operators, and we had the honor and privilege of going up there and speaking to all the EOD and SEAL candidates that have been selected in their senior year. So just a little mentorship, let them know what it's like and how to prepare. And so anyway, just really, so I was just up there, I think 3 weeks ago doing that, and just really an honor to be able to do stuff like that. So did you know aviation was your primary selection while at the academy?
Oh yeah, I think having grown up in Virginia Beach, particularly during my junior high school and high school years, living right under the flight path, knowing just the jets in the overhead, the noise, my dad involving me in certain aspects of his journey through naval aviation. And then I was reading about my grandfather, and he was a very famous World War II fighter ace. who went on to help naval aviation transition from the prop age into the jet age. So yeah, it was in my DNA from the very early years. It's all I ever wanted to do. I was very singularly purposed in my, what I wanted to do with my life as I was, going to high school and then to college.
Wow, that's pretty cool. What a rich history. A rich history and a legacy that continues. You mentioned your son was a SEAL, and has he since retired?
He did. He didn't retire. He did about 8-10 years in the teams. Finished up with the guys there at the north end of Damac with SEAL Team 6.
Okay.
4 troop commander in gold.
Okay. All right. So the legacy continues, which is really, really impressive. After you were selected as naval aviator, obviously you went to training. That was Pensacola back then as well, I would imagine?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And what was just, as a kid who's now realizing his dream, what was the Pensacola experience like?
Yeah. You certainly wanted to. In my mind, I had big shoes to fill. Grandfather, father, a name that was well known throughout naval aviation, particularly fighter aviation. My grandfather was a fighter pilot. My father was a fighter pilot. Commanded, VF-31 out there at NAS Oceana back in the early 70s. And so now I've gotten past the Naval Academy by the skin of my teeth. I'm now getting into what I really thought my purpose in life was, and that was to fly. And now I got to make sure that I get to where I need to be by being the best so that I can get F-14 Tomcats. So it was really, it's almost like I didn't apply myself at the Naval Academy, but I certainly did in flight training because that's where I thought, I wanted to be, and I wanted to be the best. So it was a grind for the year and a half I was in flight training.
Okay. And then obviously you did get Tomcats, like right out of flight training, or did you fly something
Right out
else?
of flight training, yeah. Got my dream job. My dad came down, pinned my wings on. He was the guest speaker at my winging. Pinned my wings on, and we packed up, left Meridian, Mississippi, and showed up in Virginia Beach.
Wow, that's cool. So how many carrier deployments have you done?
Uh, About 7 or 8.
Okay. All right.
Standard ones here on the East Coast, which were always about 6-7 months long. Couple on Saratoga, two on George Washington, one on Saratoga, 2 on George Washington, and then with being the XO/CO VF-154 out in Japan, did multiple iterations, but at shorter periods of time on USS Kitty Hawk.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I was stationed in Guam for 5 years, and so my AOD team cruised on the Kitty Hawk, and so got I was the chief back then, and my whole team, we got our air warfare, and it was pretty cool. The last conventional aircraft carrier in the U.S. fleet.
It was, yeah. It was, yeah. Part of the legacy there is when my dad deployed to Vietnam with VF-213 back in the late 60s, it was on board the USS Kitty Hawk. So he went into combat aboard Kitty Hawk when he was a department head in VF-213 Black Lions. And then so you fast forward to 2003, combat deployment aboard USS Kitty Hawk for my stint on it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. That's my time frame too. I cruised on the Kitty Hawk. It would have been 2000. But what was cool about that deployment as well is, EOD teams out of a 4 or 5 month kind of South China Sea, Western Pacific cruise, my team spent most of our time off the ship. We would fly ahead to different ports and
you're just using the ship to get from place to place.
Basically it. Yeah. It's really it was an awesome cruise. It was, you're not ship's company, and and we're basically doing the Asia tour. So great deployment overall. Did you ever make it to Guam?
Yeah, I did a couple of times. Both when the ship pulled in, and then for Christmas we took the family back to Guam, hung out there. for Christmas vacation when I had the family in Japan is at NAF at Sugi. So it was a
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
great little
So,
island.
oh yeah, yeah. They just got blasted by a typhoon too. So, like within the last couple days.
Yeah.
So we lived through two typhoons when I was out there. That was a pretty interesting experience. So, uh, do you have a Top Gun moment? Do you have a particular story that resonates that you share with your kids and your grandkids, or?
I think probably my most prolific story in naval aviation in my career was over Iraq during the war back in 2003. Record-setting combat sortie, 11 and a half hours in the cockpit. Probably hit the tanker about 6 times that night. Had to do with a SEAL team on the ground near Haditha Dam. They probably one of the first casualties from an IED. They had a KIA, so we came in, established Overwatch while they did the Kazovac event, and then the team started moving through the desert at sunset. And it was not a planned mission. We just showed up. We weren't tied to the ship. We were working out an IED as part of a JSOC element, Del Daly Special Air Force. So we were wrapped up with, obviously the special aviation units that were supporting ST-6 at the time. But yeah, we hung out over those guys for about 8, 9 hours as they moved through the desert. And once they decided to settle in for the night, that's when we pitched out of the fight and started heading home. So, yeah, 11 and a half hours sitting in a cockpit.
Wow, wow. So I guess you took on gas a couple times during that mission?
Quite a bit, yeah. Again, being part of that JSOC element, you just called the guys up and tell them that you needed more gas, and they just kept throwing tankers at us all night long. While we just hovered over these guys with Overwatch.
So, of all of your deployments and all the missions you've flown, what's one that's memorable? One that you can share with us?
I think it's probably one of my last combat flights during Iraqi Freedom back in 2003. Launched at sunset out of IED, headed up north, and came up on a SEAL team that had taken a hit from an IED around the Haditha Dam. Established an Overwatch position for these guys. And it was a division of Tomcats. We kept cycling in and out, a section at a time, but got the Kazovac underway. And then these guys started moving through the desert and stayed with them until they bedded down for the night. By the time I landed, that was an 11 and a half hour mission. Which I believe is probably record setting for a Tomcat to be that airborne that long.
Oh, okay.
Taking a lot of gas from a lot of tankers.
And then and then you've got a backseater, right? You got a Wizzo, or who's your guy in the backseat?
Yeah, back then in the Tomcat days, we called them RIOs, radar intercept officers. But we call them GIB too, guy in back, right?
Yeah. Okay. I like that. So the guy in back. So is he, looking at a screen, punching a bunch of buttons while you fly the airplane, or how does that dynamic work between the two?
Yeah, it's interesting. With the Tomcat, there was no control stick in the back. So he was purely a radar intercept guy. He was working all the comms, working the radar. In the later years of the Tomcat, when you introduced precision strike to it, you had the lantern pod. So that EOIR sensor that you had on the right wing of the aircraft. So he's in Iraqi Freedom. That's all it really was, just working the system, tracking these guys on the ground, using the system to look out in front of these guys and make sure that they're not going to be running into any populated areas or anything that might cause them to be engaged. It was all about leaning these guys left and right away from population centers, getting through the desert to where they needed to bed down, but and working the radar at the same time. We had complete air dominance at that point. There was nothing we were worried about that was going to hit us from an air-to-air perspective. So a lot of the focus was on the ground.
When you do that, do you do like are there other F-14s like nearby? Do you do like a 2-ship or a 3-ship or some type of
Yeah.
formation?
For that night, we were a 2-ship. So to maintain that constant overwatch, we'd keep one guy overhead while the other went to the tanker. And so we kind of ran a rope-a-dope event where if you're on the tanker, the other guy's overhead the team. And then as the other guy got low on gas, he'd flow out, go hit the tanker while the other guy was overhead. We just kept doing that for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So roughly throughout your career, how many cats and how many traps? How many takeoff and landings?
800 traps. So all my landings equaled my takeoffs. This is always a good thing. You want to give a number in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but sometimes you'll depart the aircraft carrier and land,
Sure.
on land, right? Or vice versa.
Yeah. Let's just say all my landings were good landings, okay?
Yeah, well, for sure, for sure. And so, like in military skydiving, right, or skydiving, any landing we can walk away from is a good one. So,
yeah, exactly.
So after that mission, and you're getting close to the end of your career, did you ever consider going into commercial aviation, flying for one of the big airlines?
No, I didn't. Flying Tomcats was fun. You launch off the deck, you're going 300 plus knots in a matter of seconds. You're turning and burning in the skies off the coast of Virginia Beach in North Carolina. You land aboard aircraft carriers day and night. And, it didn't excite me that I was going to jump in a tube and fly people around for the rest of my life. It's not what I wanted to do.
Okay, kind of like going and flying a Cessna, huh? Going from a jet to a Cessna.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Okay, so then how did you get into the realm of government contracting, and what was your first gig after you retired?
Yeah, I would like to say that I had a plan when I was going to retire from the Navy. I made a very sudden and rash decision that I was done. I had probably the best time of my life being a commanding officer of a fighter squadron in combat. And, the idea, it would have been fun to go aboard a ship and be, air wing commander or, CO of a conventional aircraft carrier. But I just thought I'm at a point in my career where I just don't think I'm going to have as much as fun as I did. And so I made a decision to retire, but I did without a plan. It just so happened I had a former air wing buddy of mine down at Blackwater and heard that I had retired, and he said, "Hey, we got some stuff going on, and love for you to come down and talk." And from there, it was 2 days later, plane ticket down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, working the Katrina ops for the next 4 months, and then getting pulled back into Blackwater proper down there in Moyock, and just kind of going with the flow. It was always all hands on deck. Where were you? Where did you need bodies to tackle problems? And it was during that time frame that I met Marty. We developed a friendship back 2007-9 time frame, and moved through the company under his mentorship, and then over to aviation with Presidential Airways. Got into some cool projects with Eric. And then when Eric was selling aviation, decided that it was time to move on.
Seamus Flatley, great discussion, great career. From one service member to another, I thank you for your service and for your family's heritage and history of service. It's really quite impressive, and serving at levels that are unique, serving at levels that are difficult for a lot of people to achieve. So thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your experience with us.
Well, Bob, thanks for having me on board. I appreciate it. You have a good day.
You too. We'll see you.